Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, is one game that I get a lot of enjoyment from when I dive into its universe. Whether it's the rich storytelling, intricate skill trees, and beyond, there are many aspects that have resonated with myself and other people. So much so that years and years later, people are still intrigued with the game. In the past, I've gone through both KOTOR 1 and 2 with blasters and then melee only. Each were challenging in their own ways. It was interesting to see how those compared. Because blasters and melee only were completed, I want to ask the next question. Is it possible to beat KOTOR 1 and 2 with force powers only? Well, this will be interesting to say the least. Before we dive into the video, I want to lay out some rules for the run. Starting off, I'm only allowed to use force powers. There are various powers the player and his allies can use. From lightning to force siphon, we will have numerous options at our disposal. This will be interesting to try. The blasters and melee only runs, limiting ourselves to just those weapons, hindered us against groups of enemies, while we excelled at 1v3 or 2v3 combat. This run, it seems, will be the opposite. Groups of enemies on paper should be easy to deal with, but we may have trouble against bosses or stronger opponents that are force power resistant. Because force powers are the only things that can be used, all grenades, blasters, melee weapons cannot be used. This is our last resort, as some members will need to be converted to Jedi status and have to remain in the party. I'll talk about this later, but want to briefly mention it here. So implants, visors, gauntlets, shields, and belt modifiers are allowed. This will make things much more difficult for our party members. These can be really powerful and help turn the tide of any battle. But with none of them allowed, we will have to deal with lower damage output, getting hit harder by enemies. The game will be played on the difficulty, which is equivalent to hard mode in other games. The difficulty cannot be changed at any time during the run. I'll link this post down below that explains things in detail for those interested. Next, we must beat the game. The KOTOR games have many planets and things to do on each one. We will have to conquer each challenge as we go. Lastly, glitches and/or exploits are allowed, so expect some cheeky ways to take down bosses and get around areas. KOTOR 1 and 2 are some of my favorite Star Wars games, so I'm excited to play this again while sharing it with everyone. Let me know down below if you would like to see more KOTOR content in the future.
You may dispense with the pleasantries.
Two quick things I want to mention is that I'll be showcasing the challenge alongside the story in this video. This is meant for those who are unfamiliar to the game and its storyline. More than a few years ago now, I played KOTOR 1 and 2 for the first time and was extremely happy I wasn't spoiled the story beforehand. Because of this, I feel it would make the video much more interesting to talk about the story and challenge side by side. Lastly, these videos I like to make sure my character follows either the dark or light path. Blasters and melee only challenges, I flip-flop between them. For this force only series, I wanted to do something a bit differently, which is why both KOTOR challenges are light-sided. This will almost be a challenge run on top of another challenge run, making things ultra difficult. There may be a few unavoidable moments where the game forces certain actions, but for the vast majority of the run, we will remain light-sided. Make sure to smash the like button, comment, and subscribe to help support me and the channel. Now let's jump into force powers only. Before starting the run, I was given the choice to select our main character's class. In my past playthroughs of KOTOR 2, I've gone through with the male characters. This time around, I wanted to choose the female Jedi Consular for a few reasons. First is that I want to switch things up with the female Jedi. Is there any difference or benefit to doing this? Depending on the player's gender, alongside force alignment, different characters will be added to their roster. An example of this will be choosing a male character adds the handmaiden down the line, while choosing a female will add the disciple. Going light side adds Mira to the party, but going dark side unlocks Hanhar. The second reason is that for a force powers only run, selecting the Jedi Consular class will greatly enhance my offensive and defensive capabilities. Increased FP will be great, but at the cost of lower HP. That is one of the many reasons why the game recommends for players that are knowledgeable on its mechanics to choose this class. Now, this isn't to say that newer players can't select the Consular class. They may have more of a challenging experience starting things off. Subsequently, with the various attributes, skills, and feats. For those who are unfamiliar to this game, let me break down each attribute and my selection of skills/feats. Attributes determine what the player will be proficient at using, whether whether it's a lightsaber, blaster, force powers, and so on. For the purposes of this run, as it is a force powers only one, we'll be focusing on the bottom 4 attributes the most. Constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are necessary for a force powers only run. Constitution represents health and resiliency. A high constitution stat adds modifiers to the vitality points gained at each level up. The stat also allows for party members to use implants, but as these are banned in the run, that aspect of it is useless. Intelligence represents knowledge and reasoning. A high intelligence stat adds modifiers to the number of points a character has to spend on essential skills, which I'll be getting into very shortly. Wisdom represents willpower and perception. A high wisdom stat adds modifiers to Jedi force points, force power saving throws. The force powers of a Jedi with high wisdom are also much harder to resist. Lastly, having a high charisma stat will increase the potency of a character's force powers. It also reduces the penalties for using the opposite side's force powers, though if you are a Jedi using Sith powers and vice versa. There are some other aspects that will be great for the purposes of this run. Each of these will greatly enhance force powers and help us along our journey. Now, I did want to get dexterity to a +1 modifier. Why did you put points into that? Well, that blaster modifier will be useless in the force powers only run, but dexterity also increases a character's defense, making them harder to hit. With Jedi Consular being selected, having lower HP than the other options, this will help to resist incoming damage more often than before. Skills and feats I will talk about together. Skills are things like awareness, stealth, demolitions, and so on. Each party member has optimal upgrades for skills, indicated by the highlighted options. Persuasion and treating injury will be the most useful for the main character. I like to have the main character be able to persuade NPCs more often than not, and have the other members be more proficient with computers, repairs, etc. Stealth will lower the chances of an enemy spotting that character, alongside giving the option to camouflage. Feats are what the player specializes in. It could be hand-to-hand combat, increased toughness, proficiency with blasters, and so on. I plan to go more in depth on both the skills, feats, and then force powers throughout the run, but want to briefly mention them here for those unfamiliar to the game. A ship drifts in space, the Ebon Hawk. Our character and others are badly injured. Because of this, T3, a droid, is able to make it to the nearby mining facility. This is when we see our main character recovering in a bacta tank. Lights start flashing, then we are released. In a nearby room, supplies were collected alongside opening the morgue door. After looting a corpse, a woman rises up saying that she was the one calling out to us inside the bacta tank. He claims that our survival was no doubt a result of our Jedi training. Kreia is going to be an integral character throughout the story of KOTOR 2. For Force Powers only run, she's going to be great. Later on, Kreia and the main character get an ability that lets them share buffs. If Force Speed is activated, both characters will receive that buff, just as an example. I'll speak more about the various passive buffs that characters give to the player. Now, for those who have played KOTOR 2 before, might know what I'm about to talk about. At the beginning of the game, the player is forced to use a plasma cutter to open up a locked door. There's no workaround for this, the player has to use that weapon.
So uncivilized.
Then I had to deal with a duo mining droid squad, alongside one further down, that prevented me from progressing. Because of this, unfortunately, the run is not technically able to be beaten with force powers only. I've played through this game more than a few times, I already knew that this was coming. And in the grand scheme of the game, it is a fraction of a percent. Now obviously we are going to have to count this against the run, it is a non-force power. While it is unfortunate, it is much better than in KOTOR 1's case, where the player doesn't receive force powers until Dantooine, 2 whole sections of the game later. Basically at least 3+ hours worth of gameplay. This time around it's much shorter, less than like 10 minutes, but we can't understate that non-force powers were used. I'm still interested to see how force powers only for the rest of the game will suffice. Will it be possible? Are things going to be more manageable?
Maybe.
I guess we'll just have to see. Stick around and let's find out together. Once I'd unlocked my first force power, I took the fight to the droids and then eventually freed Atten. This is when I started to notice some issues that could occur throughout the run. I do have to admit, I should have either unlocked Stun Droid or Shock instead of Push, but in the moment I decided to get Push as I want to make sure I had enough FP to cast. If the player doesn't have enough for that ability, it will be grayed out. As our main character is such low level, I was hesitant for the aforementioned abilities. Even if I did Shock or Stun Droid, the result would be the same, as I would have to consistently wait for FP to regenerate. This was a major problem in the case of KOTOR 1. especially in the Starforge, as the player needs to be out of combat for FP to regenerate in that game. I did have to train them around like the good old COD zombie days, so it brought back some memories. Fortunately for us, KOTOR 2 has many updated and enhanced mechanics, FP regen being one of them. I think the strategy wiki has a great explanation of this mechanic. I know some of you guys have been asking me to go in depth on some of the abilities and such a bit more, so I figured good time. Force points normally regenerate from 0 to maximum in 90 seconds when not engaged in combat, in 900 seconds, 15 minutes in combat. Increasing maximum force and wisdom modifier have no effect on this regeneration rate, only the amount regenerated per unit time. For example, while a Jedi with 180 maximum force and one with 360 maximum force both regenerate from 0 to maximum in 90 seconds while not in combat, the former only regenerates 2 points per second, while the latter regenerates 4 points per second, double due to double maximum force. Fraga's mining facility is one awesome place to go through, and helps either introduce or refamiliarize the player to the game. Going down inside the mining tunnels, seeing a mysterious person aboard a Republic vessel, entering the gas dormitory section, and beyond were some of the many things the player will encounter in their first few hours in this game. In most of these areas, the player has to engage with combat. I've showcased a bit of the combat, but I would like to explain it for those who may be unfamiliar. KOTOR uses a D&D based system with party members and enemies taking turns. On the background, damage numbers are rolled. We're able to see all the damage calculations and such within a subsection of the menu, which is really neat to check out after an encounter. The bottom left bar is the action bar, which lets the player choose basic attacks, force powers, select buffs, and choose how each party member should act. Whether it's a Jedi support, range, or up close and personal, each can be useful. Connected to the action bar is a smaller bar that will show the order in which you chose those actions. HP and FP are fairly self-explanatory. Each will slowly recharge while not in combat, even slower while in combat. With the difficulty in play, enemies are going to hit harder, inflict critical damage, on top of a plethora of other things. Because of this, having good armor is necessary for this run. Oh, what's that? You can't use non-Jedi or Sith robes to cast force powers?
It is of no concern.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but on the flip side, we have plenty of force buffs. Which brings me into my next point, which is that there are 3 types of force abilities generally. Damaging force abilities are typically things that most people would think about: force lightning, push, lightsaber throw, and so on. Not using lightsaber throw for obvious reasons. Buffing force powers include battle meditation, revitalization, force defense, speed, etc. These will greatly help us to reduce incoming damage and increase the damage inflicted on enemies. Debuffing force powers I find to be useful, but I like not to cast as often. My favorite of these being Insanity, driving enemies to go insane, wallowing in agony.
Change of the easy part. It's what goes on in here that's hard.
This stuns them for some time, allowing for hits afterwards. Having one person cast this will be very useful. These are just some of the many gameplay mechanics that I want to talk about. I think I'm underselling how challenging this is going to be, even with force powers only, but I'm curious to see what you guys think will happen throughout the rest of the run. Comment down below. Enemies in some of the end sections of the game will hit well over 100, but I really need to be careful, making sure to optimize upgrades, select the best armor, so on. With Darsan making his presence known, cutting off Krea's hand, alongside the numerous Sith troopers, Kreia, Atten, T3, and our main character eventually find the Ebon Hawk, trying to get out of there. Learned this trick from a commenter that if you let the Sith board the ship, you are able to earn XP from them. It is the option I like to choose. It goes more in line with a run as I can use force powers. In the most recent KOTOR 2 video, another commenter mentioned that I would earn the same amount of XP if I did just use the turret. I haven't done any testing on this, which I will do before the next challenge on this game, but I decided to see if there was any info, which it was just all non-conclusive. Because of this, I want to throw out the question to you guys. You know if you get the same amount of XP whether the Sith troopers are defeated inside the ship or outside with a turret. Really curious to learn more about this. Ultimately, we are able to leave, but are tailed by an enemy ship blasting us from afar. This one we were given a crucial choice to shoot at the enemies, possibly blowing up the facility, or risk holding fire to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. Told to end to hold off firing the turrets, and just to, try and weave out of the situation. That's when I said, this is when we were given a chance to speak with our party members about what just occurred. occurred, and plans for the future. The Sith are powerful and have many assassins at their disposal. If we were to beat this threat, we need to find more allies along the way. Freya questions if you are able to do all of this again in the Mandalorian Wars. These are just some of the many dialogue chains that are throughout the game. They showcase how each character interacts with one another, previous events leading up to the game, and so on. I find even now that I can't help just sit back and listen. Even after multiple playthroughs, the dialogue in these games are just so peak. Dialogue interactions will influence a character's opinion of you. For this run, oh my goodness, is this going to be important. I just wanted to briefly mention that. I expect a whole section about dialogue interactions, specifically influencing party members later on. Telos is the first stop on our journey. Because of the mining facility getting blown up by the Sith forces, and the Ebon Hawk being nearby, the TSF places us under arrest until they can thoroughly investigate what occurred. We are brought to the cells, and after a short time, an assassin breaks in, hoping to take us down. So we tell him,
"Your feeble skills are no match for the power of the dark side."
Yeah, we absolutely annihilated that dude. TSF members rush in, and after clearing things up regarding the assassin, we're transported to new quarters to avoid further incidents. This is when we get a couple of calls from opposing factions, the Ithorians, and then the Zerka Corporation. Each wants to snub out the other. Kreia and Atten converse as our main character sleeps. He questions our past and how we were able to survive. Kreia answers with some valuable insight, doesn't want to further speak as it is disrespectful as we aren't present in the conversation. The next morning, we're given the freedom to leave after the TSF clears us of any wrongdoings. We were able to get our stimulants, armor, ship. Wait, no ship? What? Yeah, somehow the ship was transported to Telos' surface. We know from an earlier cutscene that it was this mysterious person, but the main cast of characters don't know this yet. I started to get into Pazak by this point. I have to admit that I really never tried it out before. I think maybe a quick match when I first started playing this game years ago, but this playthrough I really started to enjoy it, which led to me discovering a few new quest lines further down the line. We'll be talking about Pazak again later on. As we speak with the Ithorians, helping them with the restoration project and beyond, I'd like to take some time to speak about a few things. I think it would be better to skip the Ithorian questline, as I have spoken about it in depth in the past videos. Check out the blasters and melee only videos if you are interested. The main reason for completing this, especially for this run, is to increase our main character's maximum FP. You just can't go wrong with that. Now onto the talking points. The first thing that I want to talk about, which some of you may have already noticed, is the original Xbox display window. When I go back to do challenge runs on older games, I like to try and play them on their intended console. Most Wanted, I find more enjoyable to do challenge runs on using the 360. Having lower FPS in combination with the challenge run rules makes it more challenging than if I was on PC, as PCs generally have better hardware than consoles, allowing for more FPS. KOTOR is another great example. The lower FPS, bugs, and freezes makes it harder and have those hilarious moments that have been memorable years later. Sometimes it's just straight comedic timing with those freezes. But this isn't to say that I dislike playing on PC or using mods. I recently got into this cool Russian RTS game that I highly recommend for you guys to try out. Just personally enjoy the vanilla console gameplay. Obviously I know that some games aren't possible, especially with how greedy some people are.
No. It's not true.
I do plan to eventually play the KOTOR 2 restoration mod. Let me know down below if you guys would like to see that. Maybe if there's enough hype around the idea, I'll make a poll to definitely see. Secondly, since this is an original Xbox game, it does mean that I'm going to have to manually save for pretty much the entire game. There is an autosave feature, but I find it to save far and few, alongside bugging out extremely often. My first playthrough of KOTOR 2, I end up getting this hilarious glitch that I'll put up on screen. My main character becomes some homunculus version of a godskin apostle and fire giant from Elden Ring. That was one interesting moment. There have been plenty of times where I was thankful to have been saving more often than not. The downside to saving often is that I would have to delete older saves, but it is 20 times better than losing 20 plus minutes because I forgot to save. Lastly, let me speak further on the dialogue interactions within KOTOR 2. The main character is able to speak with NPCs around the map. Some may be merchants, group contestants, and beyond. Some of these may have quest lines attached to them that will yield credits and XP. Depending on the actions undertaken, This will influence the player to the light or dark side of the Force. Party members can be interacted with, speaking on past events, their connection to the main character, and events unfolding within the galaxy. Another major problem besides FP regeneration in KOTOR 1 was that if a party member isn't a Jedi/Sith, there is no way to convert them. KOTOR 2 updated dialogue interactions with party members, where the final conversation allows them to basically become a Jedi or a Sith. There are specific things needed to be completed, certain areas where party members have to be interacted with, and so on. Once we get off Telos and have more freedom to explore planets, we will reconvene to talk about this again. Because we help the Ithorian Restoration Project, our main character receives an increased maximum force point amount.
Everything that has transpired has done so according to my design.
That is when we were thrown into a massive firefight with the mercenaries aiming to destroy the Ithorians. Doc for the meantime is going to be our main weapon against enemies, then the occasional buff or two from Kreia. If we are low on FP, cast Force Body to convert HP to FP, very useful force power. The Ithorians are once again thankful for our services and allow us to use a shuttle to land on the planet's surface, as we still need to figure out where the Ebon Hawk is. Before leaving for the planet's surface, Lieutenant Gren speaks with Admiral Nasi, a key character from the first KOTOR game, relaying information on the Exile, aka our character. Then the perspective shifts to us flying down to the surface. It ended up being just as friendly as the Citadel station, blaster bolts raining down on our position. Once the ship crashes, a mysterious character approaches our main character. It's revealed after some time that this is Bayodur, a soldier that used to be under the command of our character during the Mandalorian Wars. The two reconnect as other party members slowly wake up. Then we formulate a plan. A nearby facility holds a shuttle. Since the Ebon Hawk was located in the polar regions, a shuttle is necessary to reach that location. Telos' landscape was ruthless. The wildlife and mercenaries were tough. Thankfully, Shock did the job well.
Let the hate flow through you.
Every time I play these KOTOR games, I just can't help but enjoy the scenery, even with the limitations of the time. The oceans, high cliffs, and beyond are fun to look at, especially when you go into first-person mode and see things a little bit more clearly. Even if it's not as good as Jedi Survivor and the more modern titles, for the time you can tell the devs went all out in the visuals, interactions, upgrade trees, and so on.
Can you feel the anger, the hate, the fury?
After some time, the team makes it inside the base where supposed the shuttle can be found. Deadly toxins, multiple turrets, squadrons of droids, and a massive tank waited inside. Fortunately, we have many great force powers unlocked by this point in time. Battle Meditation and Sun Droid were huge players in this section. It was fun, but arduous series of fights. With the shuttle in our possession and the location for the polar regions locked in, our party members set off for the frigid landscape. Of course, as we are approaching, a few HK assassin droids try to hinder us. One character that will be quite useless unfortunately in this run is HK-47, when the player gets much later in the game. I guess to open it up further, it would include all droids, since for obvious reasons, none of them can wield the Force. This is one area where the player can acquire a part for HK-47. Because of our party members being injured, the unyieldingly harsh conditions of the polar regions, we need to find shelter immediately.
And to do that, we must go to the lower levels.
Inside the massive block of ice rests a Jedi Academy, one with no Jedi students. The Chani warriors detain us as Atris, one of the few Jedi remaining in the galaxy, speaks with our main character. He says that we haven't changed since the Mandalorian Wars. Our quick need to respond has set about a series of events, some of which are still eating at the galaxy. The immediate Sith threat is spoken about. He then questions our intentions, but sees no deceptions behind our words. It's so fascinating that this game alone had a 20 times better story than the entire sequel trilogy combined. Ultimately, we are able to leave Telos with Ebon Hawk once the other party members are rescued from their cages. Aboard the ship, E3 reveals that it was able to steal the data from the Atris' archives. Why is this important? It showcases our main character after the Mandalorian Wars, where the Jedi Council exiled us for our actions. Reckless actions we undertook following Revan ended up causing irreparable damage to the Jedi. Because of the Sith returning, we must seek out each of the Jedi Masters for their assistance. This is one cool cutscene to witness, but not as cool as you heading over to the Voz channel for daily streams and highlights. Here I post the challenges from the Twitch channel. For those who like to watch on YouTube, Twitch has ridiculous amounts of ads that they show, but I think it's worth having them primarily on YouTube. Whether it's this challenge, Saw No Deaths, Sekiro AP1, Demon Bell and Charmless, and beyond, you can find it all there. It's been great seeing you guys enjoy the content. Thank you guys for being awesome as always. Now let's transition to the next planet. Because we we need to find the Jedi Masters, alongside unlocking our allies' true abilities, venture to Nar Shaddaa next. This is definitely a first on the channel, as I like to leave Nar Shaddaa for one of the final planets. It has grown on me each time I've played, but the first playthrough I did on this game, I just had such a bad experience with multiple bugs and glitches, but I digress. In the Nar Shaddaa sections, I want to further talk about force powers, as we have started to unlock many, especially with the consular bonus, and then complete our discussion on converting party members to Jedi through dialogue interactions, alongside a few other things. As this is going on, I'll highlight the important and interesting moments from the planet. Swoop races, Pazak games with unique quest lines, getting captured by Visquiz, then later Goto, finding the Jedi Master Zez Kyle. I spoke previously about there basically being 3 types of force abilities. You could split them up even more, but for the purposes of explaining damaging, buffs, and debuffing force abilities, I'll refer to them as. Each of these will have an alignment associated with them. Light or dark side, some can even be neutral. What does this mean? Well, for this run, as we are trying to be more light-sided, the dark-sided force abilities will have their costs adjusted, but ends up needing more FP to cast. The inverse is true with the light side abilities. In the previous Force Powers run, someone mentioned that if I was dark-sided, would have not been complaining as much. Mentioned in the Halo Wars 2 video that I don't want to constantly spoon-feed information to you guys. It's crazy that I have to say in a subsequent video that whichever alignment I choose for the run, I have to stick with, even though it was mentioned multiple times in that video. Now, I could tear it into that can of worms for a while, but it's just not worth it. Because of our character's attributes, we have great stats to help beat a KOTOR 2 Force Power only challenge run. Charisma having an integral role during the playthrough. Character's Charisma modifier, which I'll refer to as CHA or CHA, can decrease the cost of force powers of opposing alignment, as each CHA reduces the adjustment by plus 5%. For example, Heal is a light side power that normally costs 52 force points for a dark side character with no Charisma modifier who has achieved mastery. Since its base cost is 30, it's subject to an adjustment increasing it by 75% plus 22. However, if that character has 20 Charisma, CHA plus 5, the adjustment is reduced by 25% to 50%, resulting in 45 cost per use. A high Charisma stat, combined with Force Channel, a passive ability that speeds up FP regeneration, helps keep our party members in combat without the worry of running out of juice. Now, I could go really in-depth into every Force ability, but I think it would be a bit overkill. Instead, let's focus on the 3 that I think will be the most important in the run: Force Speed, Battle Meditation, and Force Lightning/Storm. With the KOTOR series being a turn-based game, having increased speed greatly helps get extra attacks/damage in. At the highest tier, you literally feel like Simon from Expedition 33 with just how often he goes. For the duration of the effect, 36 seconds, movement speed is doubled. The Battle Meditation power also increases the vitality point regeneration rate of the party, doubling it, although this doesn't include regeneration item bonuses, they're simply added afterward. This effect lasts for 20 seconds and will not affect any droids in the party. Speed and Battle Meditation are going to be the main buffs they'll be using throughout the run. Obviously, I would use others, but I think this is a good few examples of what these buffs can do for our party members. Last Force Power I'll speak about is Force Lightning/Storm. Now, we won't be getting Storm until much later in the game, so I'll focus instead on the middle category. As our main weapon of the run, Force Lightning is excellent at dealing with groups of enemies. Being light-sided means we will have to pay an increased FP cost, but for Force Powers only challenge, it's simply too effective to pass up. This power unleashes an electrical attack. Force Storm also inflicts the same damage on force points. A successful will save by the target reduces damage by half. Some other notable mentions would be Drain Life/Death Field, alongside Force Crush. There are so many different types of force powers that aid the main character and their allies in combat. Like any other game, each has their pros and cons, but can easily turn the tide of any battle. Let's transition now to dialogue interactions and converting our party members to Jedi. Kreia and Visors we don't need to worry about since they already wield the Force. The other non-droid party members are Force sensitive, but we need to help them realize their potential. Dialogue interactions with party members are divided into 3 categories, I guess you could say. say: cunning, good, and psychotic. Certain characters will react differently based on what you say. For example, Aden is influenced by both good and psychotic actions, while Beodur is just good actions. The subject is a rabbit hole that can easily tunnel out into multiple sections. How much is needed to influence someone to become a Jedi? How many interactions are needed per character? Does having a third member affect conversations with a second? Yeah, basically my point is that I could spend numerous pages talking specifically about this, similar to force powers, but I think this is a whole nother level. Instead, I'll keep it fairly simple, using one character as an example. Aten is one character that has a fascinating story that isn't really mentioned through the main story of the game, whether it's his past being saved in the Mandalorian Wars, to a Jedi giving her life up for him to show his force affinity. Aten is one super interesting character. There are plenty of times throughout the game where the player interacts with Aten and can influence him. Some are during the main story, and others occur at specific points in the world when he is in their party. Nar Shaddaa has many locations for the aforementioned points. After all of that, the player is able to engage in the final conversation where Aten becomes a Jedi. Each character will be a designated Jedi class, balances things out, but it would be awesome to have everyone be consulars.
To continue, we need one singular vision. My vision.
Now repeat this for the other characters and boom, everyone's
Jedi.
Throughout the course of the game, I was able to get all of our party members to become Jedi. Nar Shaddaa was an interesting experience this time around. The Bazak games, to then unlocking the Force within our allies. With Zez Kyle found, alongside Godo's ship being conquered, let's move on to the next planet. Because we had completed Nar Shaddaa, I want to visit Onderon next. Well, technically Duxon because the military noticed the Ebon Hawk, well-known ship within the galaxy, forced us to land there instead. Duxon is a fun place to go, but you just have to watch your step because the wildlife is not friendly.
Judge me by my size, do you?
I had scoured the area to find parts for the ship, since it got badly damaged when we were trying to escape. Sooner or later, our party was ambushed by Mandalorians, questioning why we were on Duxon. Once we explained it wasn't by choice, you quote-unquote request that we see their leader. Of course, we obliged the demand. And during the camp, Mandalore greets us and asks what we are looking for. Ultimately, we come to an agreement where he would transport us to Izes, the capital city of Onderon. In exchange, we must help around the camp. Most of the tasks Mandalore asks of us are things that we can accomplish, collecting the power converters from the Canucks, defeating the Zakheg, rescuing the Mandalorian, and so on. The only one that we weren't able to was the fighting arena, where the main character can battle one-on-one with various restrictions attached. Because most of the rounds were non-force powers, I wasn't able to get far due to our character being low in strength, which is okay in the grand scheme of things, as not all tasks have to be completed for Mandalore. To go through completing the various tasks given by Mandalore, let me speak on how using no implants, visors, gauntlets, shields, and belt modifiers has impacted the run. With armor being the only thing that I'm able to use, and even then it's not really considered armor, because at max we have like +3 defense, where most heavy armor sets have at least like +6. That is one reason why having a little bit of levels into dexterity helps. I have to rely on my skills and game knowledge to help me progress through each area. What does using no implants, visors, gauntlets, shields, and belt modifiers mean? Each of these, while far from the most impactful, will change the stats or actions the player can execute. A visor may allow the player to use an enhanced power shot, or an implant can speed up health regeneration. Some will even boost the player's stats. Especially the later game equipables have crazy stats attached to them. Basically, having none of these greatly hinders me. Kreia says that
You must strengthen your connection with the Force, my apprentice.
And oh, I guess we unlocked a beast ability that will be quite useless in this run. What doesn't hurt us is just like, man, she could have shared something a bit more important. Ultimately, we were able to reach Izes. Once we've completed most of the tasks given by Mandalore, Kreia has a suspicious conversation in the hangar with him. Yeah, she is a bit unhinged. Going to Duxon, then Onderon, with them having quest lines tied together, I really enjoyed. As KOTOR 1 doesn't really have anything like this. Similar to Nar Shaddaa, our main purpose for coming here is locating a Jedi Master. We unfortunately got sidetracked a bit earlier when the military noticed us. Jedi Master Kavar is helping the Queen with the events unfolding within Onderon. Baklu, the military's general, is leading a coup against her. Things are tense all over the town. Mandalore's contact that can help us get in touch with the Jedi Master got arrested after being wrongfully convicted of murder. I had to play a bit of detective speaking with NPCs until I got the story straightened out to free him. This is when I also completed the soup races on this planet. It's basically drag racing within Star Wars. Really enjoy this side event whenever I come back to these games. The XP, credits, and the thrill factor make it super fun. Boost pads and numerous obstacles will be on the map. I had to make it to the end as quickly as possible. A highlight of these games in my opinion. With Mandalore's contact freed, he thanks us, then sets up a meeting within local cantina. Kavar has an interesting conversation with our main character and allies, but is cut short when Tobin, Baklu's right-hand man, tries to stop us. Kavar is able to escape, so we will have to deal with the remaining soldiers. I don't think they can handle all the lightning arcing around them.
Hey, someone scrape that guy off the floor.
Yeah, with Iza's being in chaos, it's probably not a good idea to stick around here anymore. So our party gets the heck out of there. We'll have to wait for things to cool off before aiding the Queen and Kavar. Dantooine was home to one of the many Jedi enclaves within the galaxy that was destroyed by Malak. The rest were during the Jedi Civil War. Because of this, Dantooine has become a prime location for looters to find treasures within the ruins. Initially, I spoke with the administrator to get a lay of the land, alongside some useful information that she might have. He reveals that many people need help around here, especially with all the mercenary activity, and that any help would be greatly appreciated. She then mentions how she is still in contact with one of her old Jedi friends, Rook. He has gone missing, so the administrator asks that we can help find him. We accept her request. The Kunda Plains have many nasty beasts roaming about. Kinraths, and then the enhanced Viper ones, Kath Hounds and beyond were troublesome to take down. Fortunately, Force Storm did the trick.
The hate is swelling in you now.
I think this is a good point to talk about Force Forms as we progress towards the ruins of the Jedi Enclave. These are passive buffs that will help to either regenerate Force points back faster or make abilities more potent for increased damage. Most characters will unlock at least one of these Force Forms, so I'd make sure it was selected before combat. These are game changers in certain scenarios. Some will also increase saves, basically resisting damage. Each has their pros and cons, but Force Channel I found to be the best. The increased FP regeneration when in and out of combat was huge, on top of increasing our saves and damage. What is your favorite lightsaber or Force form? I'd be really interested to hear in the comments. I know the Ataru form slapped so hard back in the melee only run. Inside the Enclave, there were numerous pests, dead salvagers that could be interacted with for a quest, alongside a few NPCs to speak with, the Disciple being one of them. He will be the final addition to our roster. As I've only played the male character previously, it was interesting to have him in our party, and learn more about the history of the Republic and Sith, as he is extremely knowledgeable regarding historical events. Then after a series of dialogue interactions, the Disciple becomes a Jedi. I was really surprised at how easy it was to convert him compared to some of the other characters. But hell yeah, it worked out nicely. I basically, spoke to him and met him, and then within the first 10 minutes, he became a Jedi. The final thing I did in the temple was retrieve a datapad that shows where Vrook may be taken hostage. We will have to investigate to find out more. Nearby to where we spoke with the administrator, there is a cave where the player and our allies can enter. Everywhere I looked, there was Kinrath creatures waiting to pounce on us. That's when I found their nest.
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this.
Sure enough, they did get destroyed. As we rescue Master Vrook and then protect the Kunda settlement, this is a good point to semi-reflect on the run. I like to, at least once, talk with you guys regarding how challenging this has been, comparisons to the other KOTOR game, etc. KOTOR 2 has been interesting so far using Force powers only. On one hand, there have been plenty of times where Force powers only proved to be a hindrance, but for majority of the game, it seems that this is more than a solid choice to use. Force powers have many things going for them that blasters and melee weapons could not achieve. Buffs such as battle meditation and force speed are just insanely strong. Around this point is when I achieve mastery of the light side of the Force, which will boost the player's stats as long as they remain light-sided. Put up a screenshot so you can see what the mastery does. There are many things that work with us in a KOTOR 2 Force power only run, but just like the first game, wearing Jedi or Sith robes was necessary for casting most Force powers. It's unfortunately just something that I had to work around. This brings me to my next few points, which is that this game, so far at least, is much more forgiving than KOTOR 1 in regards to FP usage, FP regeneration, and the newly added Force forms. There were fewer times overall in this game where I had to wait for FP to regenerate, which allowed me to engage with fights more often. There were some sections in the early game where I had to wait for FP, but it was much better than KOTOR 1's case where I couldn't use Force powers until Dantooine, 2 whole sections after the start of the game. Another thing is that this game has many more Force power options compared to the first. Essentially, KOTOR 2's updated mechanics have made things much more manageable. The difficulty has made each situation much more tense, and the crazy thing is we've just started to really dig into it. I don't want to spoil much about the end sections, but let's just say don't be surprised if enemies hit well over 100 damage in a single attack. These are just some of the many things I've noticed so far in the run. We still have a bit more of the game to go through. Maybe things change like a flip of a switch. Maybe somehow enemies will become super force resistant, or maybe our damage won't be enough further down the line. Well, in the meantime, it's all just speculation. We'll have to progress to see. At the end of the video, we will reconvene and I'll give my final thoughts on this run, going into more detail and speaking about the run as a whole. If you've been enjoying the video and like the content I make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more challenge runs, reviews, and other stuff I create. I have a lot of fun making these videos for everyone and usually end up learning a few things along the way, both in-game and editing within software. I'll have a section at the end of the video after the conclusion to the challenge, so I encourage you to stay for that message. I'm eternally grateful to each and every one of you that have clicked on this video. With Rook rescued and the estate protected, the administrator offers us a reward, but we humbly decline, saying to use it for rebuilding Kunda instead. Because we have rescued Rook, our work here is done, at least for the time being. Sooner or later, Kelborn reaches out to Mandalore and the rest of our party, saying that the Onderon Civil War has started. Now would be a good time to revisit Duxon, so we can help the Queen and Jedi Master Kavar. Once we've greeted and spoke with Kelborn, he relays the situation to us. Kreia senses something happening nearby on Duxon, Sith Temple to be precise. Because of that, and Isis itself needing to be handled also, it would be smart to split up. I chose Aten, the disciple, and Visors to enter the Sith Temple, while Kreia, Bao-Dur, and our main character storm the capital. Let's talk about the Sith Temple first. Now this area has been difficult in previous challenge runs, but with Force Storm and the better tiers of Force abilities, we annihilated pretty much everything along the way.
I killed them. I killed them all. They're dead. Every single one of them.
I opted to have Aten as he has this unique ability that makes him consistently revive in combat. Each character has some sort of passive buff that is specific to them. Talked about these a few times during this video, such as Kreia synergizing well with the main character's buffing force abilities. Whether it was outside the temple or inside, it seemed that everyone wanted to inflict maximum pain and suffering. The tombs of the ancient Sith Lords and their rich history is something that I'm surprised has not really been expanded upon within the shows or movies. These are really awesome areas that have so much potential, both visually and story-wise, especially after rewatching the Clone Wars and that season 6, I think it was one of the final episodes where Master Yoda goes moribund and sees Darth Bane. That was so cool. Previously, I watched this German fan film a few years back that had Vader go through these Sith temples and retrieve the knowledge inside. I was amazed by the visuals and how well it was made. Then recently, I tried going back to watch it and poof, it just seemed to have disappeared off the internet. Maybe one day someone will make something great like that again. Ultimately, it was time to finish the temple and defeat whatever evil plan Vaklu had cooked up. Sith Masters tried to stop us, but couldn't match the strength of the light side of the Force.
You underestimate my power!
The Disciple is a super underrated character as he becomes a Jedi Consort class that has a large FP pool. This meant more buffs for the team and more Force Storm casts. Because the Sith were stopped on Duxon, the perspective shifts to our main character, Kreia and Bao-Dur. As Force powers are the only things allowed, and no lightsabers or blasters can be used, we are going to have to cheese this next section a bit. What do I mean by that? I mentioned earlier that characters have unique passive abilities, and then gave a few examples. Bao-Dur is no exception. Onderon's second half includes one obstacle that can be debilitating if not prepped for beforehand. Since most normal playthroughs include someone with a lightsaber or shields are no issue, but a Force power only run requires us to outwit the system a bit. This could technically be considered a non-Force power. I think that this is the best option to comply with the rules. Eventually, Bao-Dur destroyed the shield.
The shield is down!
And so we proceed inside the palace. As we go through each of the wings of the palace, helping the Queen's Guard alongside defeating the Splicer, let me talk about something special I've got planned. Gaming has been something I've always been really passionate about, and so it's nice to see people enjoying these KOTOR videos and others similar. The KOTOR videos tend to take a bit more time because of the way the game is shown to the player, alongside me wanting to make sure you guys enjoy a funny and entertaining hour or so of content. As such, I post these every few months or so. I'm going to be doing something special, which is 2 KOTOR videos within the close window of each other. Expect another one in a few weeks. Rescuing the Queen, aiding Kavar, and reinforcing the Republic within Onderon was one awesome series of events. The tyranny of Vaklu and the Sith is no more.
Remember this day, the day Onderon became free again.
At last, we arrive at Korriban, easily my favorite planet to explore within the KOTOR series. Learning about the ancient Sith entombed within the valley, conquering the trials of the Academy, and beyond are a highlight within each game. There are a few reasons why I like to go to Korriban last. Numerous high-level beasts that are resistant to Force abilities roam about, alongside a hidden Jedi trial? Yeah, I'll be talking about that very shortly. First things first, we must find the final Jedi Master. Korriban is an interesting place for a Jedi Master to hide, as it is strong with the dark side of the Force, so we have to investigate further to see where they might be. Inside the crumbling Academy, Sith assassins hide in the shadows, waiting for their time to strike. After the events of KOTOR 1, Revan caused the Sith to fight one another when the headmaster was defeated. I had to learn the core tenets of being a Sith, answer a quiz, and fight various starved beasts. That's when our character was able to find where the Jedi Master was, dead. Yeah, this is clearly a trap constructed for us. As we try to leave the Academy, Darth Sion blocks the exit. Our character and Sion exchange words as he questions why she would follow us, and why we are so special. Sion wants to destroy Kreia, as she destroyed him long ago. What the heck? Kreia is a Jedi. What does he mean? Well, there have been a few hints throughout the story, but I don't want to spoil anything until Dantooine's second section. A fight emerged, so I had to buff myself up like crazy.
LeBron scream if you love KOTOR 2.
Yeah, basically Sion got annihilated. He really didn't stand a chance. Even so, Sion possesses the ability to revive himself, as his dark-sided rage is so strong. It keeps his shattered body intact, making him nearly invincible. For now, we will have to escape, find a more opportune time to strike. The final thing we will do on Korriban is completing the Sith tomb within the cave. The player has to be either heavily light or dark-sided. As a result, it's better to come here near the end of the journey. This is something that I only found out about more recently, specifically during the melee only run. Check that out after this to see a more so first impressions. Before we even begin, the biggest hindrance is that FP cannot be regenerated here. I'm going to have to be extremely careful. Each section of the tomb challenged the main character's ideology. Why did we join the Mandalorian Wars? Who matters more, our own lives or the lives of the troopers? How important / impactful are our choices regarding our party members? You know, there's even deeper themes in there that you could, talk about too. There is a major bug that the player can exploit here, but I'll be talking about that in the future KOTOR 2 challenge run, this only, which was really nutty. Besides the cool factor of the Sith tomb, is there any reason for coming here? It's mostly to add to the story, but there is some solid loot that can be gained, most of which can be sold for loads of credits. Ultimately, we get to the end of the tomb and see what our future could have been like if we kept following Revan's path, which really makes you think how differently things might have turned out. With all the Jedi Masters found or rescued, we must now return to Dantooine. They will know what to do with the Sith threat looming overhead. Once again, if you are interested in checking out the full challenge run, or maybe you would like to hear more of the story, head over to the Voz channel to see all of this KOTOR 2 Force-only playthrough. Returning to Dantooine, specifically the Jedi Enclave, we can see that the Jedi have rebuilt most of the structure. As such, we are able to enter the upper levels now. Before, you could only enter the lower levels, as like the top layer was all caved in. This is when the Sith threat is revealed. The nature of our Force abilities and the deception invoked on us comes to fruition. Gosh, the sequence still goes so hard even after multiple playthroughs. I think like the Revan reveal in the first game, this section would be much more impactful to watch rather than me explaining it. I'll let some of it play now.
Thing to explain. It is the bond that develops between apprentice and master when one truly understands another. It is developed over time through understanding of each other. Yet you do it so easily, and we do not know why.
You make connections through the Force, and it resonates with those who travel with you. The resonance is even greater when they, too, are Force-sensitive.
Your actions affect others more than you know. You draw others to you, especially...
When you suffer, their spirit echoes it. And when they are in pain...
You were deafened.
At last, you could hear.
You were broken.
You were whole.
You were blinded.
And at last, you saw.
When you returned to us, we saw what had happened. You carry all those deaths at Malachor within you, and it has left a hole, a hunger that cannot be filled.
In you, we saw a wound in the Force.
In you, we saw the end of the Force.
Yes, you can feel the Force, but you cannot feel yourself. You are a cipher, forming bonds, leeching the life of others, siphoning their will and dominating them. It is the teaching of these new Sith to feed on others, on other Force sensitives. They are symptomatic of the wound in the Force. You are a breach that must be closed. You transmit your pain, your suffering through the Force. Within you we see something worse than merely the teachings of the Sith. What you carry may mean the death of the Force, and the death of the Jedi. Do not be afraid. You shall feel no pain, but this must be done.
Enough! Step away from her.
What?
Step away! She has brought truth, and you condemn it. The arrogance. You will not harm her. You will not harm her ever again.
I thought you had died in the Mandalorian Wars.
Die? No. Became stronger. Yes.
Is this your new master, Exile? If so, then you follow Revan's path. Her teachings will cause you to fall as surely as he did.
We sought to lure the Sith out, and now they have come to us.
As you would pass judgment on her, I have come to pass judgment on you all. Do you wish to hear the teachings born of the Mandalorian Wars? Of all tragedies that scream across the galaxy? Let me show you. You, who have forever seen the galaxy through the Force. See it through the eyes of the Exile. How could you ever hope to know the threat you face when you have never walked in the dark places of the galaxy, faced war and death on such a scale, culminating in a final atrocity that no Jedi could walk away from, save one? And that is what I sought to understand. How one could turn away from such power, give up the Force, and still live. But I see what happened now. It is because you were afraid.
Yeah, that was crazy to say the least. The Jedi Master is dead, and Kreia revealing her true nature. We now must stop her in the Sith threat. We now have access to Force Enlightenment, extremely powerful ability. The best of Jedi speed, armor, and valor powers are instantly activated at a reduced cost. The power is useful to quickly become ready for difficult battles. We are now in the final stages of the game. Atris falls to the dark side as she was influenced by Darth Treya, aka Kreia, boarding the warship, defeating Darth Nihilus, then going to Malachor 5 to confront Kreia. I think this is a good time to talk about the run as a whole as we progress through the aforementioned sections. Is it worth using Force powers only in a KOTOR 2 playthrough? Yeah, Force powers are super solid to use in a playthrough. After going through each of the games with blasters, melee, and then Force powers only, I found that KOTOR 2's Force power only run was strangely the easiest of the KOTOR challenge runs. The great Force buffs, damage from lightning, and others similar proved better than any blaster or melee combo. Now, is it actually possible to beat the game with Force powers only? Technically no, as we had to use that weapon at the beginning of the game to open the door, alongside a few other interactions. Other than that, I would say like 99+% of the game was able to be completed with Force powers only. So I would consider this to be a Force powers only run. Using no implants, visors, gauntlets, shields, belt modifiers made me have to carefully navigate each situation, more so than I would have to normally. Combine that with the difficulty, and yeah, enemies were relentless. Especially on Malachor 5. Enemies are absolutely cracked with their damage output. Atris alongside Kreia were probably the toughest fight in the whole game. These encounters I had to menu heal quite often, alongside optimizing my turns, through repeated pauses. Having basically no armor was a challenge during the run. While we are allowed to use armor, anything other than Jedi or Sith robes will not allow the user to cast Force abilities. When heavy armor is applied, after Force speed is used, the player doesn't get the movement speed bonus, and an educated guess would be it cancels out the modifier in combat due to the armor as well, but I am unsure on that last part. This was a major obstacle in the first game as well. Fortunately, we were able to get Revan's Jedi Knight robes that had better buffs and damage resistance, but we acquired it very late in the game. Another aspect that we need to talk about is FP regen. I think for most of the KOTOR 1 run, there was something always in the back of my mind. Will I have enough in this encounter? Did I retreat and wait a minute? KOTOR 2, on the other hand, I really didn't need to worry about FP. The Force forms, alongside a few other things, made FP not as scarce. Each challenge run I've done on these games has forced me to change my playstyle to accommodate each situation. Blasters, I could pick off enemies from afar, retreat, then rinse and repeat. Melee only, I would storm towards each group of enemies. Then there are Force abilities, which are like a mixture of the two. I think groups of enemies became super easy to deal with. The Sith Temple on Duxon is a great example of this. Previously, I would be quite nervous to go through that section. The blasters and melee only runs were way different than in regards to that section, but force powers only made this much more manageable. I would have expected there to be some unforeseen thing that would hinder me in this game, as in the case with KOTOR 1's Starforged section, but there really was nothing of comparison in this game. KOTOR 2 has many different systems in place that are much more friendly for a force power only run. Enhanced mechanics such as FP regen, force forms, better scaling, makes this run easier and more straightforward than KOTOR 1. That's another thing that I found, which is that generally speaking, the KOTOR 2 versions of the run seem to be easier than the KOTOR 1 challenges. Blasters, melee, and force powers only, each of these followed a similar trend. Now this isn't to say that KOTOR 2 is an easy game, far from it. I think it just gives the player a lot more freedom. As a result, it makes the game really fun. The final thing I'll talk about here is that Darth Treya's fight flip-flopped in a very weird way. Her first phase, I slowly whittled her health down. Occasionally needed to regen FP as she is extremely force power resistant. Her second phase immediately destroyed me as the buffs unfortunately expired during the cutscene.
That is why you fail.
Holy smokes, did she wreck me. This is when I went back to fight her again and her AI just bugged out. I've had this happen before, funnily enough, in my very first playthrough of the game. I showcased this in the KOTOR2.exe video. Strange yet extremely hilarious bug. Ultimately, it was time to decide the fate of Kreia and the galaxy. As this is a light-sided run, I tried to bring Kreia back to the light, but was unsuccessful. She thanked us nonetheless. You know, she never really was gonna accept it anyways, because like pretty much the whole concept of the game is like her ideology conflicting with ours. So I don't know, it's just pretty interesting, especially if you're, you know, choosing light side. Instead of defeating her by our hand, we quickly leave to reconnect with our party members. As the shadow generator is primed and ready to fire, Malachor 5 is soon to be no more. The game ends with Ebb and Hawk escaping and then drifts in space. Like poetry, its starting and end sequences rhymes. This has been Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords beaten with force powers only. There were many awesome and challenging moments during the playthrough. Overall, it was a blast to come back to this game again. Outside of the handful of mandatory scripted interactions at the beginning of the game, every combat encounter was completed using force powers. The game and challenge took roughly 19.5 hours to complete. With blasters, melee, and force powers only completed, we just have a few other categories of weapons to go, fists being next. I pray that my worst enemy never has to do a KOTOR 1 fist only run because ooh man. I won't spoil things about that. Be on the lookout for it by, you know, the end of August, the latest. Zok I got into more in this playthrough than any of the other ones, and plan to do more of it in the subsequent challenges. It's really fun, and you know, especially for force powers, it was kind of nice because you could regenerate FP while you were playing the game. Before I go, I want to talk about a few things that will be occurring on the channel soon, or will be happening in the near future. First is channel memberships and Patreon. Making content on YouTube has been a lifelong dream ever since I was a young kid. I'm very fortunate and grateful to you guys for being such an awesome and supportive community. Being able to entertain and connect with you guys in the comments has been very enjoyable. It's great to have such a passionate community. I work a few jobs besides making content on YouTube, so my time is often spent working. Think of YouTube as a much more enjoyable job compared to my others. It's something that I have to spend time doing, which I'm more than happy to do. The section I want to speak about positively is I'm very fortunate to be where I am now. Creating these videos takes a lot of time. It's genuinely something I enjoy doing. Getting consistent views is a fun challenge that has been interesting to beat, but I don't necessarily care to get thousands upon thousands. Man has got to make a living.
I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
You Because of this, if you would like to further support me, besides watching the videos, become a channel member or head over to Patreon. I set the channel memberships to 1 tier and made it the lowest possible amount, 99 cents, alongside numerous perks being attached to it, one of which is seeing the KOTOR videos before they are officially released. I've been offered sponsorships before, but I'd much rather recommend something I believe in than fill the videos with products I don't care about. The sea of AI content out there has been the biggest annoyance. Regardless, I'm going to keep making videos and keep improving. As a wise man once said,
which means all I can do is move forward, right?
maybe one day I will reach my lifetime goal of 100k and that plaque. It's still a long way off, but something I've wanted ever since I started watching YouTube as a kid. I always want to be upfront about things and hear from you guys. Am I wrong? Do you agree? I'd be interested. I've always tried to become a better content creator, but especially this year. The last thing I want to talk about are those KOTOR 2 cutscenes I missed. I've been interested in going through and getting all the cutscenes so I can see more of the game, make for more interesting content. I'll put the ones I have completed on screen, and those who are familiar can let me know down below in the comments the ones I missed. KOTOR, Saw, Elden Ring, and every other challenge run I've completed has been a super memorable experience. Even if I don't get the opportunity to do YouTube full time, I know that for at least some moments, I gave some people joy and funny laughs. Whether you've been here since the beginning or this is your first video, thank you for spending some of your time with me. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps to support the channel and push the video to others who might enjoy it. Try to do something kind for someone today, whether it's a small or large gesture. This is your boy Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.